Mic check 1 2. You sure the mic working? I bet, cause I don't want to mess up now. I'm Bar and Friends. We keep it authentic, funny, and inspirational. Welcome to the episode. Oh, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel, like, comment, do anything you want to just support us. And let's just get into this. Ah, man, I love this.
This is Bar and Friends, and I have the pleasure. She doesn't want me to gas her up too much, but I have the pleasure and the honor of having my sister. I know that I say sister to a few ladies, but no, this is actually my sister.
Can't you see the resemblance? No,
I have Adriana to Bar and Friends. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. Okay, all right. Chilling.
Thank you for the introduction. My brother-in-law.
I got married 2 months ago.
You did.
And that was awesome. I loved it. You were
2
there.
months already. That's crazy.
I think so, yeah, man.
Time flies.
For sure. What was to you, like, as far as my wedding, like, what stood out to you as far as, like what did you like?
Okay. So first off, you guys got married on the beach, which I absolutely love the beach.
Okay.
Like, there's just something about the beach that I think it makes me feel really small. Like, when you just look out and there's just, like, nothing out there, you're like, wow, it's just sky. Like, water goes on forever. It's just so dope. So going out there it was beautiful. Right. The weather was a little shady. It was very windy that day. And I'm so sorry to bring up that memory. But it was beautiful. It was still nice. It just was, your hair flying and you're trying to look cute in a dress and all that. Right. It just was a lot. Like, for me, I was like, let's go inside, guys. But to get married outside and stuff, I thought it was dope. And it was in Florida, so it was more intimate because not everybody is going to be there. But at least for me, I was there, so the important people were there.
Well, of course, yeah.
Maid of honor. Who else do you need? No, just kidding. But it was dope. So I think that was cool to me that you guys chose kind of like quote unquote destination wedding, but not, in another country. So praise God. You could just go and it was like easy enough to go. I thought it was dope. The wedding itself felt very simple, and like knowing my sister, it was like, this is her. Like, it made sense. If she would have had this huge elaborate thing, I would have been like, this is all Christian, because this was not the girl that I was raised with. So I think that was like super dope. And then I think the highlight for me, one of my favorite part of the whole thing, other than seeing family, and having a good time, whatever. Right. But when you guys did your vows, and you did vows for Caleb.
I did. I
thought that was so just different and like important to us, because normally people get married, and if somebody has kids, you have to make sure the kids get along with the new spouse and all that. And it wasn't just like, I hope Caleb likes me, but like, you vowed to him, like, I'm going to be there for you in a way that it's like, you're not like trying to replace his father, because his father is in his life, but it's like, here's what this looks like. I'm going to marry your mom. And that also means you're part of you're part of it. And so, I mean, he was trying to be all strong, and then he started crying. I was like, you're going to cry, Caleb. Just cry. He was trying to be all serious, which made me want to laugh. But I also was like, I'm not going to cry, because that's how we are. But I thought that was like probably my favorite part of the whole thing, was just like, for you. I mean, you also had them typed up.
I did.
On a little card.
I did.
Super prepared, organized. I thought it was super cute, because the reality is, I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you this.
Tell it.
But whatever, it's after the wedding. Y'all already married. The morning of, I was trying to find a printer so I can print out my sister's vows for you. So she's like, I have them on my phone. And then she's like, I'll email them to you. And then the hotel had a printer, but it was printing them. Literally, it was like 0.5 font.
Yo.
And I'm like, you're not going to read this on stage. So then I printed it regular size, and it was like 2 pages. And I was like, then it was windy. The wind is blowing her pages around. It was a whole hot mess. And I was like, look at Christian with his little printed cards. And my sister's here. I was like, I'm trying, Joy. I'm trying to print them. I told her just to use her phone, but she didn't want to do that. That's fine. I get it. Sister, I still love you.
But you also did a song.
Oh, yes. For my toast.
And I should have known, but I'm like, but once you said I have something for you guys, I'm like, oh, is it a song? Oh, I got so happy. Everybody pretty much either sings or plays an instrument in your family. And so I want to know from Adriana's mouth, who's the GOAT in your family when it comes to just...
That's such a hard question because it depends on... Okay, stylistically,
right.
I would say my brother.
Okay.
I would say my brother is overall well-rounded in like almost every style. Like he'll turn on an organ sound. We ain't go to no organ church. That was not what we grew up in. And he'll be able to play. I mean, obviously, like if you compare him to a legit organ player, he's not better than them. But the fact that he even knows somewhat what to do is like, this is awesome. So I would say my brother knows the most, and I mean, he went to school for music, and he was able to kind of like exercise the gift in a lot of different ways. My parents invested into him. They bought him instruments. They went to school, and like they allowed him to learn these things. He had YouTube, right?
Right.
So now, outside of that, if you look at like my uncles or my dad, it's like they didn't have YouTube. They didn't go to school. They didn't have someone investing money into all this. So they're really, really, really good at like Spanish guitar,
right?
Like that style of music. So, I mean, I guess you could say they're the GOATs in the sense of like they didn't have 2020, technology that we have nowadays. And they still learned how to play whatever because they do it all by ear.
Right.
And so I'm like,
oh,
it's almost like, well, who's greater?
Right.
It's like my brother's really good. I mean, he could do I think he could do anything.
Right.
And like musical genius, like taking the song that I hear it one way, that I think I kind of hear things a very basic way, and he'll be like, I added shakers and there's a little violin over here and a cello, and I'm like, how did you come up with this? But it's like he'll create something a little bit more different, whereas like, yeah, my uncles didn't have the support, like they weren't allowed to go to school for that, like that was just not the time. Like, you're here to make money. You're not going to make money as a musician, and I need you to work and pay your bills. And so it's just like they did it more as a hobby, but their musical gift is still their ear. Like, it's crazy.
And you also play drums and you play keys as well. Which one is your favorite to play?
Okay. Again.
Okay.
It depends.
Okay.
So I love playing drums. I started playing drums and guitar first when I was like 8 to 10. I didn't learn piano until I was like 12. But I liked playing drums because I was like an angry child. And the drums helped me get out a lot of my energy and frustrations.
Okay.
It just was like a very healthy, or maybe not healthy, whatever. But it was like a good way for me to express myself. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
And so I really enjoyed playing drums. And then I also feel like the drummer is... like the bus driver.
Right.
Like,
oh yeah.
If we're going to build, like if I'm building, we're building. And if I stop playing, the song stops, so right. I liked the control. If I'm going to be honest, like me at 10 years old, like I'm in control of the church service. So I appreciate that side of the drummer of like being able to kind of like, oh, this is like, if I'm feeling it, I can push us to build or whatever. But I think it only feels good if I have other good musicians.
Right.
Like if I have a great keys player and a great bass player, especially bass, like bass and drums is like, we're in this together. Let's do it.
Yeah. If
I don't have that, then I don't want to be in the drums, and I'd rather play the keys because then I'm in control.
Right.
Control from the keys where I can pick what we're doing as far as like chords and
right.
If I have to then get a drummer to be like, build, like you can kind of lead them that way.
Lead them in that way, right.
So I guess, it's kind of equal. Guitar's like last on the list.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Musical influences that have influenced you over the years. Who are they?
My brother.
Dang.
So, okay. Two things. We didn't grow up listening to secular music.
Okay.
So... people be like, Michael Jackson, I listened to this, I listened to that. I'm like, we weren't allowed. Like it was like you listen to that and it's like, wow, that sounds really cool, but also it's the devil's music.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would say, like, I mean, styles, we had like your basic church, we call them corritos, like the church Spanish, like fast songs or whatever. And there were some slow songs. Slow songs became a thing as I was getting older.
Right.
Because when I was a child, church was, 20 minutes per song. And everyone grabs a tambourine and some maracas, and you make a noise.
Right.
Make a joyful noise. I would assume it's like the equivalence of shouting.
Right. Yeah.
Like, we're not here to just sing slow songs. Like,
Right.
we're going to give God a praise. Okay.
Right, yeah.
So we would do that. But as I got older, then it was like slow songs. And then I got really into like the CCM, like, English stuff. So I loved Jesus culture. I loved Bethel, all that kind of stuff. And then, and Hillsong. Hillsong was a big name.
Right.
I really was a fan of Skillet.
Really?
I loved Skillet. I wanted to be super emo for like, there was a good portion of my life where I was like, I want black hair. I want bangs in my face so I can do the little like Justin Bieber head nod thing. And I really wanted it, but it was like, I don't have this hair type. And I wore jean skirts all the time. And my aunt would be like, you can't wear Vans with your jean skirts. I just want to be emo. And it was like, no. Wow. So that didn't really work out for me. But that was like my thing for a while, that I really liked the electric guitar. Just
right.
Like, and it was like screamo, like, yeah, this is awesome. Again, going back to my anger, I just felt like it felt right in my teen years. And then, but I would say like, I learned how to play instruments after my brother did.
Got it. Okay.
So he was like the drummer of the church, and then he would practice piano at home. And then when we were at church, it's like kids service. There's not really a lot of people there, and we don't have anyone else to play guitar or anything. He's like, I'm going to bring the piano. Can you sit on the drums and just kick your foot? It's okay. So I learned drums because he played piano, and then my parents bought him a bass. So he learned bass, so then I learned piano. So I just kind of learned whatever he taught me enough to get through church and have a good church service. And then, but I didn't necessarily, I mean, we listened to salsa and like whatever Spanish kind of music, but as far as like, I had like zero, okay, I can't say zero. I was going to say I had zero gospel influence, but my sister. But my sister.
Yeah.
So I did have a pretty rounded out, like what I listened to as far as, but I don't think I ever listened to stuff. Like I never listened to Kirk Franklin and was like, I'm going to learn how to play this on the piano. Like it just wasn't, because we're not singing it in church.
Right, no.
So I didn't care. My brother probably did more than me. He learned a lot of things.
So when did you get into gospel music like Kirk, Ty? Like when did you get into?
When Joy had her own car.
Okay.
So she's what, like 6 years older than me. So she's 18, I'm 12. So around there. She had her own car. She would put on her gospel albums, and every time, we're in the car, she'd put on whatever. And I would like hear it. And I mean, it was cool. Obviously, there's like fire musicians, harmonies. We all would break out into 3-part harmony at random times and all those things. But I didn't really like it because it just was like, I can't use this. I can't go to church and be like, all right, everyone, we're going to sing this song I heard. It's like, no, not the people in my church. Not any of the churches that I've been to. I'm like, we just don't have those singers, the choir. And I feel like if you're going to do it, you got to do it right.
Right. Yes.
We can't. So, I mean, I tried for a while when I first started like leading worship. I would maybe take like some type of like, I love you forever. I love you forever. That's not a quote unquote gospel. That's not the same as,
listen,
I got the victory. We didn't do that. We got no horns in church. There was a guy that played the shofar. That was not the same thing. So we didn't want to encourage it.
Sis, you, and I'm used to it because my mom's this way. A few other important female people are in my life. They're this way.
Okay.
But
what are you gonna say?
You are very direct, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes your directness gets taken the wrong way.
Yes. Most times. Yeah.
How do you lead with your personality without, I guess, offending someone? I mean, but that's going to happen regardless, though, right?
I guess it depends, on the person and myself, right?
Okay.
So I would say in my younger years, if I thought like early 20s, if I thought I was right, I didn't really care what you thought.
You didn't care, right?
Because I knew that I had like, I know that I'm not doing this with necessarily bad intentions. Like, let's say you have the worship team, and I've been part of like, you know, different worship teams in different churches. And if you have someone on the team, they're not really the best singer.
Right.
For me, it's like, why are you on the team?
Right.
Is my first reaction. You're actually not good at this.
Right.
So, and there's two sides to that. There's like, the team deserves better. God deserves better. We should give the Lord our best gift.
Right. That's true.
And the Bible says David played skillfully.
Right?
So
Yes.
he learned his instrument. He played well. And that was, I think, part of his anointing. I think that, yes, you can't, because people will be like, well, if you're the most talented, but you're not anointed. Correct. But you can have both. Like, so I'm like, there's that. But then on the other side, I also fully believe that if you have somebody who's not called or gifted or whatever to be in this area and they're here, that means that they're not doing what they're actually called to do.
Right.
So I feel upset for them. That's like, you would be great in this other department, but because you really want to be in this department,
right, you're
missing out, and we're missing out on the blessing that you could be over here. It's my intention, I would say, was always, it was good. I mean, obviously, it sounds negative to be like, they're not a good singer, they shouldn't be on the worship team. But also, who wants to hear people who aren't good?
Good, right.
Oh, it's all about their heart. Yes, and we all have ears. Like, I just feel like God has gifted us all in different ways. And
For sure.
Like, if we really think about the body of Christ has different body parts. The hand can't say to the foot, we don't need you or whatever. But the hand can definitely look at the foot and say, you are not a hand.
Right.
And I think people are not okay with that.
Right.
Well, we all want to be hands. We're not. Not everyone's a hand. Get over it. You know, like, I'm sorry if you don't want to be the kneecap, but that's what God made you to be. Be the best knee you could ever be, you know, whatever.
No,
so
for sure.
I think because of I want to just say that to people, and I have said things very directly. It's not always well received because people, what they're hearing is, Adriana thinks that I don't have value, right? Or Adriana thinks that she's better than everyone else. And it gets turned from whatever their own woundings and trauma. My way of coming across very directly is offensive, but also they're offended.
But that's not your heart.
It's not my heart.
Right.
And I think that's where the few people that I've gotten very close to can say, oh, she just means well. You know what I mean? And like you said, if you kind of grew up with that, you've seen it in your mom, you've seen it in other people. You know, I've seen it in my grandma. My mom's a little bit, my mom's a little less, but we're still direct. And so it's like, our family was very direct. So I knew, like, my mom is telling me that I didn't practice enough, because she doesn't want me to go on stage and get embarrassed. Right. Exactly. So she's more of like, that's not good enough. You need to run that again. Go practice one more time. And I'm like, what? You know, why can't my mom just support me? It's like, she's actually so supportive that she doesn't want you to be embarrassed. Right. So I think that in my early 20s, I didn't care. I said what I said, and I assumed that people would want honesty. Why would you not want the truth? Right. Jesus is the truth. He's very direct. He just yelled at everybody like, you bunch of hypocrites, you know? So I thought, I'm going to do the same thing. No. And then I went through a season of just like not saying whatever I thought, because I assumed I was wrong. People are going to get offended by me. And then the more that you have people in your life that kind of are like, hey, you're doing too much. That was also one of my big struggles. Like, I'm doing too much. I'm being too much. I take up too much space. Like, because I'm direct, because I have this big personality, it's like, you're a woman. You should be quieter, softer, Disney princess voice like your sister. And I just would be like, I'm just not. Like, I would feel like I'm shrinking so much that now I'm not even being myself. I don't feel safe. And now I'm even more angry. I'm stuffing things down. And like, one day it's just going to explode. And so I had to learn over time. And then I would say within the last like 5 years, maybe the first 3 or 4 of those, I'm just like super insecure. Like, I feel like I am the problem no matter where I go, because someone's probably going to get offended. And then I didn't even realize that I would introduce myself to new people and kind of be like, hey, I'm Adriana, the girl who's going to offend you, like, in a few months. You know, like, once you get to know me, you're probably going to hate me. Like, and it really was just like a stem of like rejection. I didn't want people to reject me, so I would reject them first. Right. If I can make sure that I push you away, give you a reason to hate me, give you a reason to talk, at least then I can kind of control what you're saying, because I gave you the reason. versus me being vulnerable and open and people
Right.
not liking that.
So they already know what you're about.
Right.
Okay.
I just tell them straight, I'm going to offend you.
I'm going to offend you.
Which is, first of all, it's not true because I believe like offense is a choice.
Facts.
So even if I say something that is not the kindest thing to say, a other person could choose to forgive me and move on. That's not my expectation that I walk around saying whatever I want and everyone else has to choose to forgive me.
Right.
But I also can't take on the responsibility from everybody else.
Right. From my offense. Like,
Right.
oh my gosh, she offended me.
You could say the nicest thing to people and some people are just offended over everything.
Right.
So I'm like, well, those are not my people. I'm not hanging out with them. I can't do it. But I've just learned, I mean, now I guess, because even now I'm like, I moved, I met a bunch of new people. And
Right.
my first reaction is like, they're going to hate me.
You're going to hate me.
But I've met enough people along the way that are like, hey, there's nothing wrong with what you said. And I'm just like, oh, because I was trying to say it in a nice way. Did I say it okay? And they're like, yeah, I think that was great. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, is that okay? And it's almost like shocking that I'm allowed to like be myself and it's not triggering anyone, right? They're not all upset like, oh, Adriana's here. She's going to have an attitude. It's actually like, hey, what do you think about this? Because you're very direct. Can you just tell me what you think? I'm like, oh, you want my directness? I'm always down to give an opinion. But I can do my job to say things in a way that's good. And from Family Church Pastor Mike, he would always tell me, everything that you say should be true, but not everything that's true has to be said. So make sure you're telling the truth. Don't lie to people. However, we don't have to tell them everything.
I really want to know, like, what was the process? What was your thought process when you transitioned from New York to upstate New York to Cali?
When I moved, basically, when I was at Family Church, we started this like college. You can do through this college called SUM Bible College. It's an online college, but the church is like, you could do it through the church essentially and get your accreditation in whatever your degree, bachelor's or master's or whatever. So I signed up to do my bachelor's in worship and music, which was dope. And even that was a big step for me because I hadn't been doing worship and music.
Right.
I mean, worship is a lifestyle. We get it. I worship God with lights. I understand. But like singing and leading, I hadn't done it for probably 4 or 5 years. I just wasn't part of the worship team. And so even me doing that was like, I felt like God was like, yes, like do this. And it's like, okay, but like, I don't actually do this, God. So I'm going to get a degree to then not use any of these. I don't know why, but it was one of those like, follow the Lord. And if you look foolish, if it's God, he'll redeem it. But if it's not, then we learned a little bit about music while we were there, and we owe some money to the government. So I did school for I signed up to do it right away. The way it all happened was very fast.
Okay. Like
legit had an interview on a Friday and they're like, do you want to start school on Monday? Because their new trimester was starting. And I was like, oh, and at that point, like I knew my season, we could say it this way because this is the churchy way. My season at Family Church was coming to an end. Okay. What that actually looked like, I don't know. But I talked with the pastor and like he agreed and we're like, hey, this is probably going to be the year of transition. Like he would never be the type to just be like, you don't work here anymore starting on Monday, right? Like he's going to make sure it's a transition and that we're taken care of and it's as smooth as possible. And he's going to walk me through it. With that being said, it was very fast. Dude. So it was like God kind of lined everything up for us. So I applied for the school, whatever. I ended up getting accepted, started school that next Monday. This was 2 weeks after I talked with Pastor Mike about transition. 2 weeks after I started school, so now a month later, it was like the end of January, they put out like a scholarship and they're like, we need help with video editing. It's an online school. So they're like, we need people to be in the studio, helping record, basically help with the production. We need social media. We need this, we need that. And it was this whole list of things. And the entire list was like what I did at Family Church. It was like legit my actual job. Step by step, all of the things that I learned how to do. And then when I was like, do I apply to this? Because then at the last thing, it's like, you have to relocate to California and work at our main campus. And I was like, well, this is not for me. Ain't nobody going to California. Who going to California? For what? They're like the only state that's worse than New York. In every way, it's like, man, New York is expensive, but not as much as California. Man, these laws are crazy, but California did it first. Like, it's just was like, I just don't, whatever. Anyways, so I was like, this is not for me, but I knew it was for me. And I kind of left it alone. And even the pastor was like, yeah, like, I think this is for you. And I was like, man, I know it's for me, but I don't want to do it. So I applied, and I was like, well, I don't have to worry about it unless they actually accept me. But they probably won't, because it's also only supposed to be for master's degree program, and I'm not in that. So I was like, it's fine. Mm-hmm. I do a Zoom call. I meet with the lady. Did you hear the way I just said call? Yeah. I said call. Call. Oh. I've been on the East Coast too long. Time to go back. Sorry. Yo. It's real. It's real. No, okay. Let me not even try. So I go on a Zoom call with the main lady, and she's interviewing me, and she's telling me they use all the same cameras that we have. They use all the same equipment, like, you know, like the Black Magic cameras. Right. It's like kind of like industry standard. Right. These are like the best of the best. So I was like, I know how to use all of this. Yo. And she's like, we would love to have you, but, you know, let me check with my team. But basically, you're probably in. So now I start telling people, because now I'm like, okay, I got to tell my best friend. My best friend, Liana, shout out Liana. Shout out. She just started working at the church, and it was like, we work together. And then I'm like, I'm moving. Like, how do you tell her that? Like, how do you, you know? And just all of my friends, I was there for 5 years. So it was like, okay, this is a lot to like, I mean, I figured transition was happening, but like, not, I won't see you for 5 months at a time. It's crazy. So anyways, long story short, she thinks I'm great. They end up saying yes. And they're like, we want you here as soon as possible. So I finished out, you know, like the year, which, not the year, I finished out till May. Right. So I did a couple more years, and I completed like my 5 full years of working at the church or whatever. And a few events that we had at the church, and it was cool. I mean, it was tough because obviously once I actually moved over there, it was weird, right? I don't know anybody. My whole travel experience was like annoying. Man. Like, have you ever bought a one-way ticket? Mm-mm. It's so weird. It's like weird. Not even that big of a deal, but I'm like, this is a one-way ticket. Like, I don't know when I'm coming back. That's like such a weird feeling for me. Yo. And I'm not much of a traveler in general. Right. Now, I guess I am. Now I'm trying to rack up my Expedia points every time I fly. But it was like, I'm buying this one-way ticket. I'm literally moving across the country. I'm packing up things. I'm bringing them. And I don't know anybody over there. And I'm like, what am I doing? But I honestly felt like this is what God wanted. I'm like, but why me? Why do I felt like the little bird who's like, mom kicks you out of the nest. Not that my mom kicked me out. She actually was like, you sure? You want to stay? Yeah. But like, you get kicked out to go fly. And it's like, do I even know how to fly? Like, I don't even know if I know how to do this on my own yet. Man. But mind you, I'm 30 years old. Like, I'm not a child. Right. So I'm like, I have enough experience that I can figure it out. I'm grown enough. You grown, yeah. We're going to figure it out. And so I moved over there, and the first few months, I mean, I was like, let's start a family church in California. I said, I will host parties, like watch parties in my dorm. And I will stay connected with this church as much as possible because I loved my church, and I loved my friends there and doing what I was doing there. And then God is like, no. Like, let the past be the past, and we're moving on. Here I am. I do a new thing, you know. And I was like, okay, like, we're moving on, and whatever. And a lot of it was also just for me to experience. I mean, you're literally across the country. Go and experience. So I like started looking up all these churches online or whatever. I found a church, Project Church. Shout out Project Church. I absolutely loved them. Mm-hmm. Also, the pastors were like, lived in Massachusetts for a while. So they had like an East Coast vibe. Okay. And the church is pretty dope. And I just was like, I feel like I fit here. Mm-hmm. And I did. Like, I fit in pretty well. I was there for about 6 months. And it gave me the opportunity to realize that like family church isn't the only church. Even though it was my favorite. But it was like, that's all I knew. Right. So being able to see something different and experience something different literally 3,000 miles away. And it's like the same God that's moving at Family Church is also moving in California. You preaching now. And that's where I was like, because that was one of my things where I was like, but God, you're doing so many cool things now at Family Church, and we're singing Spanish songs, and we're having these cool worship nights. And I'm like, oh my God, I would love to be part of this. And it was like, yeah, you're going to move. And I just felt like, why am I not part of your plan for what you have going on here? Why would I not be included in that? So I felt like low-key rejected from the Lord.
Dang.
And it was like, when I moved and I started visiting and I was like settled a little more over in California, I was like, oh, because God wants me to be part of his plan in California. He's still got a plan. He's still going to use me. It's just looks a little different. And that's when I also was surrounded by a bunch of people that were like, she's direct. Yay. And I was like, what? You like me being this way? You're not offended by me? Like I did it. I'm like, well, I'm new. Maybe they just, but like month after month, I just got to know people or whatever. And like, just was like, this is, I met my friend Justin, who's like one of my closest friends now. And it's like, first of all, I didn't know who he was. And he was low-key famous recording artist.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I don't know anything about half the people from the Bay Area. I was like, what is the Bay Area? You say the Bay and I'm like, down by the Bay. Where the watermelons grow. I was like, is this like the San Francisco Bay Area? Yeah. They're like, no, we don't got no watermelons, right? But I was so naive. I didn't know anything about California. I'm like, maybe we should go to LA one weekend. And they're like, that's a 6-hour drive. I was like, oh, never mind. Where do I live? I don't even know where I was. For reference, I'm by Sacramento. So it's like literally the top of California.
Oh, okay. Dang.
Like, so anyways, moving over there, you miss what once was because it feels like the good old days. Remember when we had so much fun, blah, blah, blah. But now I realized that I was like, I'm have to create new memories. I'm creating new inside jokes with new friends and it's all new. But at the same time, it's like fresh.
Right.
Like I like new.
You are a worship leader.
Yes.
At a church, which is, I think that's
it's crazy.
So dope.
So now I'm at Limitless Church.
Limitless Church.
Limitless. Okay. Limitless Church it's kind of far from where I live right now, but I got connected because everybody over there is like, hey, we need a piano player. Oh, I know so and so. Like, there's just like, for some reason, I got thrown into the musician mix, which was awesome.
That's dope.
Because it was like 4 years that I never really played piano at church or did anything. So I'm like, you want me to play keys? Like, I'm not even that good. I don't even know gospel songs. But I got connected with certain people that know other people. And then they're like, oh, this church needs a piano player. Can you like play for them? I'm like, sure. So Limitless is a new church. Church is about 2.5 years old. And so they don't really have like an established worship team and whatever. And they're trying to like build it. And so they were just kind of like hiring out, who's available to kind of help us and fill in for certain weeks and special events. Right. So I got plugged in just to kind of play keys once in a while. Then they were like, you sing? Yes. So like, can you play keys and sing? And so I was there for like, twice a month or whatever it was for a couple months. And then the pastor was like, hey, like we really like the way that you lead us. The church responds very well to like it just fit very well. And he's like, we would like to offer you the actual like job of doing this. Like it's a part-time thing, but it's the consistency of having the same person lead all the time. You could build a team, you can actually grow it. And so I'm like, I don't know how long, cause I'm like my whole entire life turned upside down in 6 months.
Right.
So I'm no longer trying to plan out the next 5 years. I don't know where I'll be in a year, especially now graduating. Like, I don't know what God has.
I was going to ask you.
So I'm like, right now, it's just like, well, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give 100% where I'm at and do the best I can to grow a team and, build. I oversee the worship and the tech department. So it's like, how do you build that as just one big team so that we all work together, all that stuff. And and I'm taking all the things that I've learned over the years to be able to, and from school and stuff and put it into this church, into these people, my friends.
So do you think that, because of course you knew who you were before you left New York, but do you think that you've solidified who Adriana is in California?
No, but I'm getting better at it. So what was it? So I moved in like June. The next March, I started going to therapy because I realized.
You go to therapy?
I go to therapy every other week.
I didn't know that.
I try to be as consistent as possible.
Okay,
but
I hear that.
It's usually at least once a month, but usually every other week. So the story is one of my mentors was telling me about this place that they do like trauma therapy. And I was like, that's cool, but like I don't have trauma.
Right.
Like my trauma is my mom didn't let me wear jeans. I grew up wearing dresses and it was cold in New York. That's I hated my life. You know, whatever. That's what I figure is like my trauma. And she's like, no, everyone has trauma. You should go, whatever. I was like, not for me. Mm-hmm. Then she would just tell me about it once in a while. And she's like, there's this really cool place. They do like this really cool, it's called EMDR trauma. You should look into it. It's basically like rewiring the neural pathways of your brain, so you're not triggered by the same things that normally trigger you. It's actually super dope.
I'm gonna look that up.
And people that think it's demonic, it's not. I promise. Just bring God. I told my therapist, like, I'm picturing God is with me on this couch. She's not really Christian, but she also understands that I am, and I believe in God, and He gonna help me through this therapy. Anyways, at first I didn't want to go to this therapist because I just was like, I don't have trauma. And then another friend of mine, Justin, my best friend, he was like, he's separate. They don't actually talk. Him and my mentor lady, they're separate. But he was like, hey, I heard from a friend, there's this really cool place. They do like trauma therapy. And I was like, you're the second person to tell me this. And also, I don't have trauma. Clearly, you guys don't know me very well. I'm not traumatized. I just, there's things in your life that happen that you're like, it's annoying. Therapy's cool. But I just felt like for me to try and go to this specific place, number one, it's going to be very expensive.
Right. Because
it's a specialized, whatever. Number two, I'm taking the seat of someone else who was like, had a really bad childhood. I did not have a bad childhood. I had a home with 2 loving parents. Right. Like, I'm not traumatized.
Right.
So every once in a while, they would both bring it up, and I'm just like, leave me alone, leave me alone. I go to this young adults conference, and they bring this woman, and she's a therapist. She is talking, she connects therapy with the Bible, right? So she's talking about how like the Bible talks about how you have to take your thoughts captive. Right. But also in therapy, we got to renew our minds with learning new things with your triggers and all. So she's connecting the two, which I was obsessed. It was the most amazing little breakout session. I was like, this is so cool because I love this, because I do believe obviously therapy is helpful, but it also is like, but the word of God is really the power, right? So I was like, she's putting them together. I love this lady. So whatever. And she brings up this test that's called like the ACEs something. It's basically like how they measure childhood trauma. And there's 10 different categories. And I mean, it was a very powerful thing. And people, were crying and having this whole experience and this big thing. And I'm like, they have trauma. Your girl looked at it and was like, maybe one of those things on the list, I kind of like, oh, I guess I relate to that. Right. And whatever. But it's things of like, were your parents divorced? Were you neglected as a child physically? Were you neglected emotionally? Were you physically abused? Were you emotionally abused? There's 10 major things. I said I only have one. I don't really have trauma. 10%? That's not it. Mm-hmm. Fast forward another month. I go to this conference with my school and I meet this lady. Low-key prophet. She was just reading everybody's mail. And I was like, you don't have to talk to me. It's fine. You don't have to read my mail. It's okay. We can, the post office is closed. Please. No. Yo. And so before she was like getting ready to like, those late night talks in the lobby of the hotel. And she's just like, and the Lord wants to do this with your life. And I'm like, amen for all my friends. She looks at me when she's like ready to get up to go to bed and stuff. And she's like, what about you? I was like, I'm good. You don't have to talk to me. And she literally told me, she's like, I feel like God wants to heal your trauma. Because the stuff that you feel, your intentions go through your trauma and then they come out too harsh. They come out like sharp towards people. So people are not understanding you, even though you have good intentions, but your trauma is getting in the way, which is like what we talked about earlier. Like my intention is good, but because I do things a certain way, because I don't know how else to communicate. It comes out this way because of whatever traumas. I now do it this way. And now people are getting hurt. And she's like, God wants to heal the trauma so that your intentions can come out pure. And I'm like, this lady don't know me at all. So I'm just there trying not to cry, which of course I cried, whatever. Now that was annoying. I don't like crying in front of my friends. Right. But I was like, oh my God. So the next day I was like, I'm signing up for therapy. And I knew exactly where to go because I had 2 different people tell me this one place. So I called the lady and I was like, I need a student discount. I'm in another state. I don't have money like that. This is very expensive and I'm in college. She's like, yeah, sure. We'll bump down whatever price to this and we'll do this. And she's like, what do you think? And then when I went there, she's like, I'm going to ask you some questions And you just answer them. And I'm like, okay, she's trying to be in my business. She's literally a therapist. I'm paying her to do this and I'm getting mad that she wants to be in my business. Anyways, she tells me all these things and it was like 10 different questions and I just answered and she was like, okay, so these questions pertain to this test that's called the ACEs test, which is the same test as from the conference.
Conference, right.
And I actually said that I've experienced 3 of them instead of just the one because of the way because she didn't just say, were you abused as a child? Yes or no?
Right.
It was like, have you ever experienced, when your parents were angry, did they ever treat you like, so it's a little different the way she worded it. And I was like, because I'd be like, yeah, my parents spanked me. Who didn't get spanked?
Right.
And it's just like, okay, like, did you ever bleed? Did you ever, like, she would go in more depth. And so for a person who is just like, everyone's parents punched them in the face and their teeth fell out. Like, didn't that always happen? It's like, no, that's actually abusive. And you don't realize that's not my story, by the way.
No, yes.
Just to be clear, my mom spanked me enough for me to listen, and that was it. I for sure I was not abused. Abuse was not one of my things. Just disclaimer. I don't want people calling my mom like,
oh my gosh.
We listened to your daughter in the podcast. But that's just an example of something that we might take light, as it wasn't that big of a deal. But because she worded the questions a certain way, I was like, oh my gosh. So now she was like, I just want to let you know, you are a victim of trauma and you do belong here. I was like, okay. But I could see how God was like helping me to get to this spot where I could be. And now in there, she brings up certain things and whatever. And I realized that there's so many things that I do for everyone else. So it's like now, even though I moved across the country, I have found new people to live my life for. Like, what do you guys want to do on the weekend? What does this person want to do for the holidays? Or what does that person want to do? And I'm still trying to do what everyone else wants. And she's like, what do you like to do? I was like, I don't know. Whatever everyone else wants to do.
Yo.
So I'm still learning who is Adriana, just me as a person. And so that's why I'm also like not in a rush to like date somebody, because I feel like if I meet somebody, I'm going to want to do whatever they want to do. And so it's like I went to the movies a couple weeks ago by myself. It's the first time I've ever been to the movies by myself. I've been single, 3-4 years? I always was like, if I want to go to the movies, I call somebody like, hey, you want to go with me?
Call your best friend,
and I'm like, why can I not go to the movies? I'm not even a movie person like that. Let's just be clear. But I was like, I really wanted to see this movie. And I was like, so buy a ticket, buy all the snacks. I got the pretzel bites with the cheese. I got the nachos. I got peanut M&Ms. I was like, I had a little salty, a little sweet.
Okay.
I was chilling and I'm like, this was so cool. And I'm like, I could have been doing this for years. But in my head, it was like, I don't have a reason to go to the movies unless someone invites me. But it's like, I'm the reason. Same thing with like, get up in the morning, put on a cute fit, do my hair, put on makeup. Like, if I want to, do it because you want to, not because you have to.
Or for somebody else.
Yeah,
right.
like it's like, I want to wear makeup today. It's like, well, it's not a special occasion, so I probably don't need to wear makeup. It's like, just put the stupid makeup on. Do it because you want to do it. Cut your hair. I chopped my hair off the other day. Cut your hair because you want to cut it. Dye it because you want to dye it. Or don't because you don't want to.
Wow. So you're living for you.
I'm learning to live for the Lord, but also for myself. Yeah, like God, like what is it that, who is it that God created me to be and not have to apologize for that? Just because.
That's good.
Not everyone.
That could be a real.
That's a whole. Tag us.
That's a good one.
No. But like, yeah, like I don't want to have to live my life. I mean, I've lived 30 years of it worried about other people. And I think a lot of that stems from the type of church that I was raised in was a very like, they were very aware of the outward stuff, the way you dressed, the way you talked. It was like, hey, like we don't wear pants. We don't do this. We don't do that. And it's not bad.
Right.
Holiness is still right. Amen. So be modest.
Hey.
Do what you got to do. But for me, the outside became way more important than the inside because that's what people saw. And so I picked up this like performance mentality. And then now it's like you move across the country. Who am I performing for? Nobody knows who I am. So I'm like, I realized that I was seeking new people to impress, new people to not even impress because, again, I try not to be fake, but trying to be like, hey, is this good? Is this cool that I'm this way? Is this okay? And it's like not just doing it because I want to do it. just what I want, and not, it doesn't have to be okay with anybody else.
But I wouldn't think you had trauma.
Is it because I'm confident?
Mm.
Or I portray confidence, I should say. I think I do walk around a lot like I look like I know what I'm doing. Even me moving across the country, everyone's like, man, you're so brave. And I'm like, I cried for weeks. Actually, didn't cry until like day 3. I didn't let myself cry because I was like, this is not a bad thing. You do not be sad and whatever. And then eventually I just cried because I was like, everything is different.
Oh, man.
The grocery stores are different. The gas is $4 more expensive. I was just like, I have to learn where I'm driving. I have to use my GPS all the time. But I don't want to show I really don't like showing weakness. And for me, uncertainty and like all of that feels weak. So it's like, I'm chilling. I got it. I'm good. I'm going to figure it out. So don't worry about me.
And just cry at home.
Just cry by myself. Okay. Or with my therapist. Yeah.
Yo. And nobody knew this. Well, maybe besides your best friend, Leanna, right? What you were going through.
Probably not even her. I wouldn't, because I also, part of me not wanting, like,
make her feel bad, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't want her to feel bad. Like, oh, friend, you're far away. And it's just like, but she's working at the church, and like she was doing a lot of also the jobs that I did. So if she's like, if something was wrong, she would like call me or ask me like or whatever. And I still would like watch online and be like, hey, you guys forgot to put the lyrics up during the, like I just find little mistakes and be like, it's out of love. But also I noticed like, so I had to learn how to kind of detach because it was like, it's not really healthy. I don't go to church there anymore. I don't live in New York. I had to learn how to kind of separate and let her thrive in her own and not just always feel like, well, what would Adriana do? It's like, well, Adriana's not here. You work here now. Do what you have to do. And so I also don't like to burden people with my stuff, which is so, I know it's annoying because when people say that to me, I'm just like, that's so stupid. It's not a burden. Cry on my shoulder and then we'll go out to lunch and be better and we'll talk about it. And so, I mean, I leaned in more to my friends that I had over there. There's a couple people that I was like close to, my mentor, obviously my therapist, my friend Justin, whatever, like people that I could. It was hard because they don't know over here. So there really wasn't anybody that knew both sides and the whole story. I think that would be the hardest part. But we here, we survived. Hey. It ain't bad. It wasn't bad either. It's just, it's transition. It's what it looks like when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. Like you can't live in New York and California at the same time. So I'm having all these cool new experiences. And I think another issue was like, I wanted like my mom to be there. I wish my sister could see this. I wish my brother would experience, my parents would love this. Like, but they're not here. So it's another factor of like, okay, I'm literally doing this by myself. And even though I'm making new friends and I'm having all these new memories and experiences, but what about my friends in New York, So trying to balance that was just like, I also was like, I'm not going to sit around and act like this is a bad thing. I'm not going to be super sad about it. I had moments and for sure went through all of my old videos and pictures on my phone. Like, remember that one time we were all together and I tried to create as many memories as I could before I moved. I hung out with all my friends. They actually threw me a birthday party. That was like office themed, which was fantastic.
Oh yeah. You love The Office.
I love The Office. And so that was like, I'm just taking all these videos. I'm like, when I move, I'm going to watch these all the time. And I for sure did. And so it was good. It was a good, like, I had great memories and whatever, but I had to learn how to like kind of process all that, the move and everything.